Hey everybody, Mike from Big Mike's Motor Pool here. Today we're working on the 680 case tractor. Trying to get some seals changed in this thing, and it turned into a nightmare. So here's what I got. We have the backhoe off the machine. Get a better view of what's going on here. And I went to change the wheel seals. To change the wheel seals, you have to open up this cover. There's two large gears in here. They have to be unhooked, so to speak. The large nut is like almost like a wheel bearing on the spindle. It just tightens up preload on a bearing here and on the outside. So to get the axle out, you got to slide it out, take the nut off, whatever. Well, in the process of draining and cleaning, I find all the bolts in the ring gear were loose, and some were missing and crunched up in the bottom of the pan here. Which I've got new bolts here for that. I'm going to fix that up, clean up the threads inside the ring gear. But to get the ring gear and the carrier out, the brakes have to come off, and this is where the brakes are on this side, and same thing on this side. So I'm going to take this apart, get the brakes out of there, and then we'll be able to pull the carrier assembly out and get it on the bench to fix it. As you can see over here, the fuel tank's out. This is the axle, and might not look so big in the video, but that's the size of a spray can in diameter. So got some tools ready. I'm going to get to work here, and I'll be back with an update very soon. Here's how we're looking from the bottom. This is the control for the brake. You get the pedal. This goes forwards, pulls on this rod, and actuates a series of discs inside here. Pretty easy to get apart, it looks like. Frame of the machine is kind of high and tight, so that's nice. Gives me a little room to work. And the other side is similar. You can see it. It just has some extra connections for the parking brake, which happens to work on this machine. Sad, the brakes are in nice shape and they're adjusted well. I really hate to take this apart, but that's what I got to do. So let me get started here. So the linkage rods for this linkage, which is the arm, just like the other side that controls the brakes, are under tension constantly from these large springs that return, which are tensioned up by this bolt. So I have to take the bolt out and get the tension off the springs. This way I can get the clevises out and unpinned, so we can remove the brakes from both sides, so I can get the actuating arm assembly to turn. So that's the next step. By the way, I broke the adjuster nut off on this side, so now I'm going to have to find that, which it's in my box of parts here somewhere. There she is. One terrible thing about this machine is parts are not easy to find. Half the stuff I've bought, I just cross-referenced. I bought maybe 3 things from Case in the process of working on this thing. Luckily, I'm very resourceful. Okay, so got the brakes opened up. These are a very weird design. It's a tractor thing. You won't see this on any kind of cars or trucks, but there's one of the, I guess you'd call it a disc or a surface. And here's how the rest of the brakes work. These are a series of discs. Guess I'm not putting this thing down, but anyway, it's a series of discs and a couple plates, and they ride on a spindle. And luckily, these look real nice because they're not available anymore, so I'm kind of glad to see that. And then that first disc comes out and rides against this and rides against this. This plate It's held in place by this tang, I guess you can call it, or detent. I don't know, it's not a detent, but the tab. And then there is another disc. Try and get this off of here. Doing this one-handed is a bit tricky. There we go. That's one. Also looks really nice. I don't know if you can see that. And then there is a spring-loaded plate, which will also be sliding off. I'll take this boot out of here from the broken clevis. See, I snapped that guy clean off, but manufacturer was nice enough to put this little notch in the assembly so we can get this out. But I'm seeing something broken in there, so I'm going to put the camera down again. Pull this off here. Try and get this to stand up a little better for you. Sorry for my super unprofessional camera skills. I should say unprofessional. Let's see what this guy's all about. Also, there's a tab right here that you can see this brake disc rides on. Yeah, we got some broken brake springs. Oh, there's one more disc in here. Let's pull that out too. This all has to come off to do what I'm doing. So 3 big discs. And then there you have it. That's the other surface, if you will. Now that these are out of the way, I can pull all the bolts like this one all the way around it and remove this housing, which will then allow me to remove this here. I guess you call it it's an axle of sorts. It's connected directly to the differential, and the differential has gears on it on the inside just behind this plate that turn larger gears. So it's a little weird, but if you saw it when it's open, it makes sense, which I'll show you eventually. Anyway, so this here, see, we got a broken spring, which I'm going to hopefully be able to come up with. I don't think it'll be a problem. They look like some standard brake spring. Like this, I got something from the army truck that might even fit that. The nice thing about these brakes, the springs may be available. Case used a similar design to this on farm tractors as well. My 530 has something like this. It's not quite as extravagant and doesn't have as many discs, but inside of here, this splits, and then there's 3 or 4 balls, large ones, 1, 2, 3, 4 possibly. I believe they're 7/8 diameter. They sit in a little valley, and when you hit the brakes, this and this are pulled together, so they're squeezed. And when they get squeezed, the valley that the balls are sitting in, it gets pulled and moved, and the balls, it's on a slope, on an angle there. So when you move it, it essentially makes the area that the balls are sitting in shorter, which then would take this and expand it upwards. It opens this gap, essentially. So what it's doing, it's just squeezing everything between the plate here and the plate here to take up a gap and create friction and make you stop. So it's really not too intricate of a design, but it sure is not the best. These case tractors don't stop very well. I'm not going to lie to you. My 530 doesn't. This doesn't either. Coming off the trailer, it's always a fun time. Let me tell you that. So I think this is about it for today. It's almost dinner time, so I'm going to shut this down and start again later. Before I shut it down for tonight, I just wanted to show you what I'm going to be doing soon here. This is a copy I made from my parts manual, which, if you're resourceful, you can do a lot with just a parts manual. I got a service manual coming soon so I can figure out torque specs and stuff. But anyway, this piece right here, this clevis, is what broke off over here. For some folks, if this is not available, this is the end of the road for them. They get discouraged, but you can see a better idea of how things are going together. Plates, discs, plates, expanding disc, or I should say expanding plate, and one more disc. There's the ball. I was telling you that right there, and you can see in the picture what they kind of tried to show is the angled holes that are elongated. And like I said, these two pieces here twist counter of each other. They both get pulled, one from the top, one from the bottom, and it just spreads it out. I'll probably get into this before it goes back together and take some video of that as well. I got to find a spring, but these should be serviced with some grease, so I'll be getting in there with cleaning this all up and getting everything greased, making sure that this is free of any kind of residual grease, and I'll be cleaning up my discs as well. I don't know what I'm going to do if these are ever, totally done for, because they're not available anywhere that I could find. But if I have to, I will have them relined, I suppose, or make some linings. I can get some kind of brake lining material, and I found this glue from India. If I can get that stuff here, supposedly you can just glue the stuff together. Doesn't sound very promising, but apparently over there it's all the rage, and that's what they do. They glue brakes together like maniacs. So anyway, this is where I'm at. And then tomorrow, this comes off. I got a new seal coming. This is a shim, not a gasket. That's to set the bearing preload for this bearing. There's an O-ring. I got the bearings coming, and then we'll get this little, I guess you call it a counter shaft. That'll come out. Then I got to do the other side. And once the other side's out, then we can lift this whole unit with the ring gear, hopefully right out of the tractor. I really am not trying to get into the transmission to get the pinion out to make this work, but there is enough room in there. It looks like it should happen. So we will see. So I'm back at it, and we're going to get this outer casing off. There's, I believe, only 4 bolts. 1, 2, 3 up here hidden, and 4 hidden in here. This one is crusty. It should be all 3/4. In order to make this a little better, I was able to find a tripod that I forgot I had. So hopefully the view of the video is a little nicer from here going forward. No guarantees. I'm very, very new to doing this type of thing with the camera. Okay, got that out. This is, they're pretty good to go there. It was so crusty it looked like a bigger bolt, but it really was just still another 3/4, just like the rest of them. Let's see here. a little tight. So I'm going to need a hammer though. I'm back with a hammer and a pry bar. This hammer, I bought it new a long time ago and used it outside for something one day and forgot it was out there. I later couldn't find it, forgot what I did with it. Years go by and I end up finding it in the dirt under a pile of leaves at my old place. And that's why it looks the way it does. Trying to pop this thing loose. Pry bar. This is a junky pry bar. I should get something better. That was the first thing I saw. Here she comes. Let's see how this works out. This is going to be a little bit tricky, I think. Hopefully that shaft will stay put. Come on. It's like it's one of those wheels that has to come off perfectly straight to come off. Alright. So now I got to figure out how to get it off of here. It's loose. Looks like there's a shortage of room. I have to get down here and twist it. So I decided I should get a look inside of here, figure out what's going on. I've had this open already, not today, but yeah, I left a tool in there. One of the gears is already out. Alright. This thing, believe it or not, is pretty heavy. It's like cast iron. Even sounds heavy. Dropping all kind of stuff in there. Put this on the bench. There's the gears. Or gear. There's the tool I left. Bring it over here so you can get a look at what's going on. So, big gear has to come off. There's the nut down there. Now, you see I use vice grips. You can see the nut moving. The nut, I don't believe it's supposed to be tight. I'm going to find out when I get my service manual here soon. This is almost like wheel bearings in the front of a two-wheel drive truck or something, or a trailer. They're only supposed to be sort of hand tight, just to keep a little preload on things. And you see there was another one here. I took it out, the axle's out already. But back in here, that's what's got to come out. This carrier here has to come out, and so does this. Unfortunately, there isn't enough room. You can see the problem I'm having back here. This is holding me in. There's an O-ring there, which that's not a big deal, but this long section is keeping me from being able to knock out the housing to the side. It's just hitting on the side of the machine. I can tell you I'm really not trying to do anything as far as dropping this rear end out of this machine. I'm just not really feeling like doing that. So I'm going to try to figure this out as best I can. Try and see if there's a way we can pull these gears. I was assuming they were going to come right out. They're almost the same size as the bearing here. But I don't know. So maybe, just maybe, because I can't really see the gear on this side, maybe it is this side has to come out first and I can just pull this straight out and then get lucky. But let's see what it does. They're separate pieces. You can see I'm moving this one in the back and it's loose. So I'm not going to bore you with taking apart the other side until I get it down to where it needs to be. So I'll stop it for now and get that off, and we'll see what happens when I get over there. Alright, so I got the other side apart, and I found that there's been a seal failure. I got some grease, oil I should say, on that disc. Not all of them got really covered, just that last one. So I'll end up cleaning that up, probably soaking it in some acetone or something like that. And this is where I'm at. The spider gears are in here, and then the flange for the spider is right there. So it was able to move, but this shaft is one continuous shaft. So what I'm going to do is, I'm thinking that if I can get the carrier to move over, then I could get the side gear here and the brakes to sort of loosen up and angle down and come out. And if that comes out, there is supposed to be a Woodruff key on the shaft in the carrier. So I'm wondering if I get that out, if I can just gracefully tap out the main shaft this way to get it free from the carrier. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put the camera where we can see, and I'm going to proceed to take this nut off and the big gear and knock the axle out so we can get this out of the way so I can see if this idea of mine works. And there's the keyway. The keyway, the cotter pin. That should come right off, or come off with minimal effort. The reason I'm using these big jaw vice grips on this is on the other one, when it was in here, there was no room to get a socket in here. And honestly, it's a weird size. I've got some big junk Harbor Freight socket set, 1-inch drive, but it's an in-between size apparently. I definitely don't have a wrench this big. As I mentioned, these don't have to be tight, so this will work. I might even make a tool for this. I'm feeling ambitious. Either something wrong with the nut, or there was an error in the machining. The other one was similar, but not as bad as this one. So there we go with that. The washer will probably stay put when I go to pull the axle out. We'll scoop that up. So we have the axle here ready to come out. Hopefully it just slips out like it's supposed to. On the other one, it didn't. The bearing was stuck to the axle shaft inside, and it brought the seal out with it, which made getting the bearing off was challenging because it's too big to fit in the press, even if you had a bearing puller, at least my press. But hopefully this comes out. Let's see if we'll just be able to pull it. You can see the bearing's moving. It's also, again, stuck. So we'll be cutting that bearing off later, but for now, knock the seal out. There's nothing else holding this. You heard the washer just fall off. Being a bit stubborn. I'm going to stop it until we get it loose, and then I will bring you back. Alright, so it's popped loose. What I ended up doing, I'll show you here. I took a very large pry bar and put the nut back on here. And then that rib down there in the center, I got behind it. And the pry bar was probably, it's like 6 foot long. And I just popped it a couple times and it came loose. Nice and easy. So now we'll pull the shaft out. This back. We'll take a look at what we got going on here. Normally I would have cleaned that, but this is all going to get cleaned anyway before this goes back in, because we're not reusing the bearings. Here's the shaft. Large and in charge. Alright, so I've made some space on the bench. I can put this big gear in there just to hang out, and then we'll pick it up and see what we got here. Noting what side the wear is on, because the bare side has to go back. I don't know if that's wear or if that's just something for the bearing to ride in, but it looks like wear to me. You can see it in this frame here, hopefully. Anyway, so I know that goes to the bearings, so I got to pay attention on the other side. Now, see if I can't move this thing over. The bearing is out of its race because the race is inside the housing that we took off on each side for the brakes. So let's see if it'll go. It is over. Not a lot. A lot of weight on this. It's hard for me to pick it up. So I'm going to go see if I can maybe get that one brake off of there. I see what's happening. There's a gusset that's rounded on the bottom near the ring gear, and it is now holding and impeding any further movement to that side, which, let's see if you can see it. It's right down underneath of there. You probably can't because of it's underneath and it's dark, but I'm going to go see if I can't move some things around and try and get this brake plate off of here. Let's see, I'll handle this. Maybe you guys can watch. All right. I can't really see anything up there, so this whole shaft may be moving and I might not know it, but I think we got something good here going on. Unfortunately, I don't know. It might be. I gotta investigate this some further, and then I'll bring you back. If you look, it's completely off over here, so that's good. Now I gotta figure out what to do about getting this out of here. So I'm going to do some studying and see if I can't find a pin or something, and I'll bring you back. Alright, so I decided this isn't happening. There's no way I'm going to get these out. with this rear end in the position it's in this machine. So now I'm going to start disconnecting the drive shaft and separating the transmission from the torque converter right there at the shaft, because that's all it's connecting the two. They're separate. And then once that's done, I'll figure out some kind of jack stand solution for the front of this rear end, and then I will disconnect it back here at the axle tubes. And what I plan on doing is taking this here piece of steel and putting it on the forklift and getting underneath the two ears for the backhoe attachment. And I'll pick this thing up, and then once I have it in the air high enough to where I can get those brake boxes out of there, I'm gonna go and probably use steel tube, maybe wood, I don't know yet, but I'll just put something in between here and the tube, and I don't know if you saw that, between here and the tube, and then that should keep it up safely. As far as worrying about it tipping side to side, the loader should keep this thing sitting pretty, because the front end is pinned in the center and pivots side to side, so the loader is going to be the only thing keeping this thing from tipping. That shouldn't be a problem. We're not going to go very high, and I'll do it very slow and controlled. But anyway, I'm not going to video taking the shaft apart, because that's not really different from anything on a common car, truck, whatever. It's just some bolts. You take this joint assembly out and done it over with. Did it once before. And yeah, once I get all these bolts here on the housing taken off and the bolts that are on the front brackets taken off, then I'll show you me lifting it and getting it set up on the stand correctly. And then hopefully we'll get these brake boxes off. Alright, so I was able to get all the mount bolts off. Drive shaft U-joint is out, which I'll show you that. There's nothing crazy about it. It's not really a shaft, so to speak, but it's one of these guys. It's not a CV, it's two joints, so there's a block in the middle to make it all work. So now I'm all set up for the lift here. You see the setup I'm using here is going to be, I was going to do the forklift, but I decided that I might have more control with bottle jacks, so I want to use those. Before I start, on each side I'm going to be scribing a line. I don't know if there's a pin like a normal car or truck, or if this just kind of has to go where it's supposed to go. There is, on the bottom side, there's metal pieces that locate it forward to backwards, but I don't know about side to side, so I'm going to do that on both sides to help me out later. And I'm also going to be coming in here periodically while I'm lifting to release pressure on the loader, because it's going to try to pick the whole machine up, where if I let off a little bit of pressure here and there, it'll be easier on the jacks and it won't be as, hopefully, as sketchy back here. So we're going to get started with this. I'm hoping to get 2.5 inches of steel in between. Seems to be working pretty well. But got some steel in here. I don't want to stick my fingers in there, that's for sure. I'm going to go take a look at the front mount. Make sure it's coming apart. Let's keep going. So the one side is definitely clear. The other side, I'm hoping I can turn it and clear it. So I'm going to bring it up just a hair more and put those 3/4 inch pieces in. Okay. This side looks like it's definitely ready to come off, so I'm going to take that out first. I'm hoping when I do that this side doesn't go falling. I really don't want this stuff to fall because I'm afraid if something breaks, I'll be really in a bad position, and we don't want that. So let's do this. This one looks like it's got a new seal in it. Somebody's been in here before. Now these shims, I'm going to take these and put them on the bench after I clean up tonight, and leave them right here with the machine, and they will be put right back in the same spot after I clean them up. Now let's see if I can get this shaft out of here. And we're out. You can see that. That's a good day. Sure took long enough. All right, now for this side, let's see if we can get this out. There she is, heavy as it can be. These shims, I believe they're more to them than just setting bearing preload. Not 100% sure, but they very well may be for setting backlash in the ring gear, and that's very important to put them back in the same position, because if not, it could change the backlash if these are indeed part of that. Problem I'm fighting with here is I'm not even using my back for all this, and I can't lift it accurately, but let's see what we can do. Different way, maybe. So I don't think it's coming out without taking it apart, so I'm gonna have to figure this out, and I'll show you what we got as soon as I do. So what I came up with to try, I don't know if it's going to work, I separated the ring bolt, or the ring gear, from the carrier. I'm going to try to pop it off the carrier and see if that gives me a hair more room to twist the carrier. I got a feeling that this may come out of here with these two grooves. I don't know why else they're there other than for this reason, or maybe the shaft's supposed to come out with it, but I'm going to try to, I got to be able to put the ring gear back on the carrier on the bench for the I'm trying to safety wire these so that doesn't happen again. I found only 6 out of 12 bolts were holding this thing together. And those were all loose. If they weren't jagged and chipped up and the threads a little bit hammered, they probably would have came out by hand. I'm trying to pop this ring gear out of its machined home. There it goes, right off. So now it gives me about another inch or so on each side to try and get this to fit out. Reminds me of one of them stupid metal puzzles everybody has and plays. Goes together one way and can't go together another way. But here is the ring gear. We got a couple broken off, close to the surface though for most of them. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 broken off. This one's kind of low. The rest I could probably weld nuts to and get out of there. Just be real careful. I don't think they're going to be too awful tight. Just got to get a hold of them. So, all right, so that part's out, and I'm going to go and move this to the safe spot on the bench, and then we'll try and get that carrier out. All right, so let's see if this is possible. I don't think it is. Let's try it another way. Oh, maybe. I don't think so. No. There it is. It is out. Thankfully. Alright, yeah. So I'm really hoping to get this out easily. Like not having to press it out or anything like that. I don't know if these holes are for it. You can't see in it. This might possibly be something for, you know, a puller or something to press it out on the machine, you know, from one side, because I believe that it's supposed to go this way. What does the other side have? The other side has one as well, but I have to clean it out and see. But yeah, some of these holes are looking a little rough. Lots of time getting beat up. Half tempted to drill this thing out to 1/2 inch and drill and tap that ring gear to half. I definitely don't think I'm going to be able to find a new carrier. You never know, but one can only hope and dream. But I'm going to try and fix it. I don't see this not working. There's enough good holes that I think if the bolts are tight, even if I put it back together like it is, I think it'll be all right. But I'll make that determination here soon. Yeah, that's it so far.